Hi, this is Luigi Subtil. I play Sean Archer on Chicago Med, and you're listening to Fandom Family Chats.
Hey guys, welcome back to Fandom Family Chats. I'm Maureen.
I'm Jeanette.
And we are back with another Chicago episode. And we're going to start with Med, and we are going to end with PD. I'm just running through how that conversation is going to play in my head. So we're saving Jeanette's best for last, but we're going to dig into Med, and we are starting with one of Jeanette's favorites. Well, not one of Jeanette's favorites on Med. And I just have to say, I love being right. I can't help it.
Okay,
but I love it.
Look, I saw this in your notes, but I'm not going to say that you're right because we don't know.
Right?
Are we right that there's obviously attraction? Yeah, but I still don't see any chemistry, so I'm not on board.
You did change your mind at one point and said you could see it in the next episodes.
Well, yeah, and then they got this episode, they were super awkward. So I'm not into it again. I don't know.
But it's because they're being set up so obviously.
I don't know. She is so okay, I understand that her job is a scientist and her job is being this very analytical person. Cool. She seems overly awkward. Which, I mean, as much as I love Will Halstead, he is also awkward. So I feel like the two of them together it's not a good fit. It's not a good fit.
But Will isn't always awkward. Once he's only awkward when he doesn't really know a person or he's unfamiliar with what his next move should be. But once he's sure of himself, I mean, that's part of the reason we love Will is because once he's sure of himself, he's very smooth talker.
I just cannot see him. I cannot see them in a Berserk-like scene.
I can't see Will in any of those.
I could with Natalie. The thing is, because we started off Chicago Med, and I know you don't like Natalie, but you have to admit, okay, Tori and Nick have a chemistry that was undeniable.
See, I think that Natalie, the reason I didn't like them together is because this seemed, maybe they did have chemistry, but for me it was negative chemistry because it just seemed like they were on opposite ends of everything all the time, and it irritated me.
It was lots of she and I've seen it a little bit with Hannah too, but it takes the right person for him to have sexual tension with. I'm sorry, Grace is not it. I don't. There was another doctor that ended up hooking up with Ethan way back when that was doing some sort of, I'm trying to remember, there was a doctor, I don't remember what she was doing. She was doing some sort of trial, or I don't know. She was doing something in the hospital that Will and Ethan interacted with her at some point.
Okay.
There was nothing there either. I remember even when he was with Nina, the blonde-headed lady that's married to Dr. Rhodes in real life. It was way back when he was dating her. Have you forgotten this? Will's other big girlfriend before him and Natalie officially got together.
I only remember Natalie.
It Natalie was awkward then too. That's what I'm saying, because those are the only two there were ever any real chemistry with. So I felt more chemistry with him and Dr. Cuevas a couple weeks ago, but apparently that wasn't an option.
I actually do really like that one.
That one seemed more, I don't know, it just feels, I'm not into it.
I think maybe part of it for me is I want to see Will in a relationship.
I do too. But I think because, like I said, because we started off so strong with the Natalie relationship, that even Hannah even brought it up this week. So
that was weird for me too.
I don't think so. Because I think it's true. I think the reason he's been so unlucky in love is that some of his heart is still with Natalie. That's his one true love. Just sucks that Tori isn't on the show anymore and they can't have that.
Well, it feels weird that they're bringing that up now. So I wonder if maybe she is in some capacity, or
I don't know.
It felt like, why are we bringing her up now?
It did feel odd. I mean, out of the blue. But as far as I know, Tori has said she will never. She's done with the.
Oh, she has said she'll never return.
I think so. Now, I've not read anything, but I've heard other people say that she said that. So I don't know how true that is. But I don't know.
I don't know that I really see chemistry between Dr. Song and Will, but I can see from the writing and the way that they're creating these scenes that that's their intention. That's, I mean, they want them to be together.
That's where they're going. That's where they're going for sure. And actually, I polled our group just to kind of see if anyone else was into the idea. And there's literally the only person that said I'm liking it was Amanda. Yeah, Amanda said she was liking it.
I
But
do
like
kind of
most
like him
people,
better with Cuevas though.
yeah. I
Than
mean, and that
Song.
was just I didn't even mention that last time because I was like, okay, well, I wanted to see if there was gonna be like another, but no,
Mhm.
apparently not. I mean, most people were just saying that they don't see the chemistry. But I think that everybody's also agreeing here that the Hannah ship has probably sailed, even though I'm upset about that
Well,
situation.
it could be good though. Guess we have another ship we'd like her to be on.
Yeah, but that's not the where that we'll talk about that later. I don't think that's where that's going.
No, I don't either.
Nope.
I'm a little sad where I think hers is going.
Oh, I'm pretty positive where hers is going, and I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with it at all.
I
But I
did
don't
think it
know.
was interesting that when she invited him, when Dr. Song invited Will for a drink, and that's like there's moments when I can see chemistry. Like in that scene when she was kind of flirting with him and she is being more flirtatious. I don't
Yeah.
think Will is real good at being flirtatious ever.
No, he's awkward. I mean, poor sweet man, like he is.
So when someone is flirtatious with him, I feel like I can feel it a little bit more. And I think Song
Mhm.
was being flirtatious, and Hannah picked up on that obviously and
Yeah.
confronts him. But even the way I kind of liked, but I think that's just because who's the actress who plays Hannah?
Jesse, I can't think of her last. It starts with an S.
Yes,
Schremer, something
Schramer.
like
I think
that.
it's
I
Jesse
think so,
Schramer,
yeah.
maybe. But I've seen her in other things, and I think she just has, as an actress, I think she's very natural.
No,
And so
I agree.
I just like any scene when they're together, not necessarily because, oh, I want them to be together romantically,
Yeah.
because I mean, that was such a short-lived romance that,
Mhm.
and I saw it all consecutively, like bam, bam,
Yeah.
bam, and then it was over. Some of the other people got it prolonged, so they're more attached to it.
Yeah.
But I just like watching them interact, and I really do like their friendship. I like how
Mhm.
she confronted him, and I even like when she said, "What, you can't get dating advice from an ex, or you can't talk to your ex about
Well,
dating?" And I just like I thought that was cute.
see, and I thought that like conversation when the conversation first started, I thought maybe he's going to somehow admit that no, it's because he wants. Like I thought, okay,
That's what I
maybe it's
thought
because he
too.
wants Hannah, which I was
Mhm.
cool with. Like I don't. Ned is like I don't understand why it does this. Okay, aside from Will and Natalie and Ethan and April, there's no other like long term slow burn like really get you invested ships that have happened.
Mhm.
It's like they want to hop around from partner to partner and chemistry test everyone together. And I don't,
Well,
I wish we had like, I mean, we don't have like a Burzek or an Upstead
mhm.
or, Stella Ride or any of those kind of
Yeah.
relationships on Met.
Because
And
a
so,
lot of the men characters have relationships off screen.
yeah,
So it's like Maggie and Ben, like
yeah,
we know who he is, but most of that relationship happens
yeah.
off screen.
Which I
Sharon
wouldn't
and
even
her
mind.
ex, most of that
Yeah,
relationship happened off screen. Same with Dr. Charles. Even when his wife was on there,
yeah.
we didn't get a whole lot of them together.
Which I would almost even venture to say, like, I would rather see something like that with Will
Mm-hmm.
that could be something substantial than just trying to throw him together with every new doctor that pops up on
Yeah.
screen when it's not always, there's not always going to be chemistry. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just not, they could change my mind. I'm not saying they can't because it is possible. Like, I think with the right writing, I can anything, but we're going to have to see her lighten up a little and show
Mm-hmm.
a little less serious side for me
Yeah.
to be on board, which maybe, I mean, I love the fact that we saw them out on their bowling. Like, how
Yeah.
awesome is it that like Will and Maggie and Doris, and I guess Ben
I
is
love
the other
Doris.
person, have like a bowling league? Like, I love that.
Yeah.
And that's because that's sort of the complaint that we've had about the med characters. We don't see them outside of the hospital, like hardly at all.
Ever.
I mean, Fire, they have their, I don't know. I mean, you don't see it a lot with PD either. But I
But
think it'd
we
be
hear
nice.
about it more on PD,
Yes.
even if we don't see it.
Yeah, we get like the ice skating rink, like with
Mhm.
Mac, and I mean, you hear about things from time to time, and obviously Molly's with
Yeah.
Fire, we get that all the time. So,
And even on PD, like the conversations they have in the car when they're on stakeouts, it's about their personal life.
mm-hmm.
And and I think that's one thing that they're doing with Will's character is they're making him all work, no play.
Yeah.
And I think like with Will, I think the benefit of Natalie was that we did see more of his personality.
Mm-hmm.
And they have and that's down to writing. They haven't been showing us his personality unless he's with someone, but they refuse to put him with someone because they're making him all work, no play. And I feel like they're doing that to a lot of the doctors.
Yes.
Crockett too now.
Yes. I was going to say same thing. Well,
In-
it's the first one that comes to mind that like we literally like have no, I mean, Crockett's like our hot Southern like surgeon guy that I think whether you find him like physically attractive, and that's his persona,
yeah,
and that persona has like disappeared, and it's
absolutely. That's a bummer.
weird. Like, I mean, like, let our doctors have some like personal lives here. Like, let us see.
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at these episodes, there's like 5 patients in every episode almost. Like,
Yeah.
we could like cut it down to just like 2 patients and show
Yes.
us a little bit of their personal life too. I would love that. Now, I know that's because probably they don't film off of the med set, but you could still have them at the nurses station having
Mhm.
these conversations in
Yeah.
the break room. Like, you know, I mean, we had Will ask Grace out finally, and just little things at the coffee shop, like things that could still be part of the set that
Yeah.
we could see these more personal interactions between each other.
Well, I feel like when Med first started, they used to do a whole lot more of that. And
We
it
did.
it almost feels like post-COVID that's
I
gone
know.
away. And it's
Yeah.
hard for me to, again, it's hard for me to keep those years ordered in my head because I just watched all of them from August to September.
Well, and PD's the same way. We don't have I mean, because the PD and the med characters used to be at Molly sometime and hanging out and doing things. And
Mhm.
I miss that. So
Yeah.
maybe next year we'll be far enough away from COVID that some of these things can come back.
Because it does feel that they're starting to reintroduce some of that, but I do wish that we would get fewer patients in every episode because it
lot.
feels like, oh, even when I take notes on the episodes, I actually was like, oh, sweet, we only have 2 things. And then I got done with, oh crap, I forgot about this patient. Oh man,
Yeah.
there was this patient too. There's just, we can't get invested in anything. Like I get the point of medical shows, the medical drama, and
Mhm.
I think that's what they're trying to focus on because maybe they can't focus so much outside of the hospital because of new restrictions and actor safety, whatever. But that doesn't mean that you have to throw 7 million things at us at one time. Still, The Resident was good at doing that with just 2 patients per episode, and you would
And
hardcore focus on those ones.
all the doctors kind of rally around, which
Yes, you work
maybe that's
together.
unrealistic. I understand that it probably is boom, boom, boom in the ER in
But
Chicago. Like I get it.
That was
but
ER too in The Resident.
I know.
And
I mean,
I think there's more opportunity in an ER to have everybody around. And I think that they're trying to move towards that because we did get, like you said, the break room scene. And we're getting a lot with Hannah and Dean in the break room. And so I think maybe they're trying to get back to where they were I think you hit it right on the head. The further we get it from COVID, I think we're going to start to return to that. I just hope that as they return, they also take out some of the patients every week.
Yeah, I think so. I'd love to.
Let's
I
get back
kind
to
of
1
want
or
to go
2.
back and watch old episodes to see, did we have that many patients then? I
No.
don't remember because Med
We did
was one
not.
I watched a long time ago.
We did not. We had like 1 or 2 in the beginning.
I'm scared to go back and watch that one because I feel like old Med Med is so far of all the 3 shows. Med, in my opinion, is the farthest from what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
That I think if I watch old ones of that, I will miss it more than I will miss like watching old ones of the others.
I agree because now it's all medical
Mhm.
and it's all hospital politics.
Yeah.
There is no relationship. There is no and not that we're drama, whatever, but you do want that. Well, we're not all focused on it. We do like the medical aspect of it, but we want all of our shows to have a level of relatability to it, a level where we can step into their shoes and either defend our people or get mad at our people or cry with our people. And we can't do that because we don't know what the heck you're saying half the time because it's all medical stuff. So that'd be nice. And I mean, even with this mom that showed up this week, Will's patient, like that was, I actually thought of you and I thought that they would go because I don't know if it was, that was The Resident with Bell's palsy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought when he said she's
stressed.
stroking out, I was like, that's what Jeanette had, but then it wasn't even that. So they picked another rare thing to go with. I was like, what?
I know, here we are with these rare things. Like, can we just do the regular stuff?
And they're all rare. All of them are.
What I was a little disappointed in the diagnosing of this patient this week. Just because, I mean, Will and Hannah both, they are not usually the ones that will just, they're usually really good at digging in and really paying attention to your patient. And you just, I mean, this felt like what happens to women all the time when they go into a hospital. Just, oh, you're anxious. Oh, you're stressed. You'll be fine. You just need to relax a little. Well, clearly that wasn't the case. And I don't know. It felt weird that came from Will, who is someone who would never like just dismiss someone's symptoms to anxiety and stress. So it was a little frustrating to me, like, if I'm being honest. And I know I don't usually get frustrated with Will, but in this moment I was like, clearly that's not the case. I mean, I don't know. Or if it is, like, let's not just downplay it the way that we've downplayed it. Maybe it is just anxiety and stress, but like, let's figure out how we help her with that. Don't just tell her to go home and like take it easy. Like, she told you she's a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get the woman some help.
And anything, throwing up for 3 days straight and not really having any other symptoms or any other things going on. I mean, that's a big deal. And I even heard them say something about postpartum, and it sounded like they were alluding to depression.
Yeah.
At one point, they didn't say postpartum depression, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize until it just came out of my mouth a second ago that postpartum is just post-birth, unless you add the depression on it. That's when I watched the episode, I put the word depression in there when they said postpartum. So I thought,
yeah, because I think they said something about postpartum preeclampsia.
Preeclampsia is what she thought, yeah.
Because of her blood pressure, which that was another one that we thought that I had with Shelby, because my blood pressure, I actually had to go to the ER because my blood pressure spiked like that, and I was feeling dizzy and nauseous and all of those things. So I mean, that could definitely be it. But yeah, I wasn't happy with the way we just sort of wrote off her symptoms so easily. And
even because Will is, and I think it's Nick Gelfus's fault for like making us fall in love with this character of Will, who will fight no matter how hard, for no matter what, for all of his patients, and he just no holds barred for everyone. And even when they talked to her about the solution, and him and Hannah were both like, we don't think you need the surgery yet, but you will. She's going home to a newborn she just had 6 weeks ago. She's gonna need this surgery sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, like,
so
she
even
said,
in that,
like, it felt really off because, yeah, like you said, I mean, Will's character, to his own detriment, is a little too pushy with his patients most of the time. I mean, it's what we love about him, though, but he's too involved, and then he just seems so uninvolved this time.
Yeah. And that's down to the writing, because she even said because Will and Hannah were like, well, we need to wait until the ideal time to do this. And what the mother said is, I've waited for the ideal time before and it never came. I don't want to wait. I want to do it now. So the writing is the only reason this, and that's the other thing that Met has kind of altered in their writing, is that now they're using the patients solely to get characters' arcs to move forward, when before they would just be, everything would be incorporated together. But that's why they have so many patients, because each patient represents a relationship of another actor. Like, we don't need to do that, not for every storyline. And that's the only reason this woman was here.
Right.
Was because Will had to realize, you're right, I do need to move on. It is not an ideal time. I should just date Dr. Song. And so it's just, don't diminish his character like that just so you can prove a point. Yeah. It didn't sit.
It felt really strange this time. I did not care for it.
I agree. I mean, I like watching Will be a doctor. I love it. But it did not sit well.
No, I completely agree. It felt very out of character.
Especially since last week, we see him going, even if I had to pay for this myself, we're going to do it.
Exactly.
Where's that Will? Where did he go?
No, I completely agree.
And I mean, the other thing this week that we see that's another super rare case was this man. And part of it is because there's so many patients every week. I could not remember what his diagnosis was. All I remember is he was bent over. He hadn't been able to sit up for, what was it, like 20 some odd years?
Oh, yeah, a long time. I don't remember how long they said, but like, yeah, it was definitely a long time. That was just a wild case to think about, like just being like bent over, like you can't sit up straight. And I guess did happen gradually. I think this case is a little confusing for me, is the way they explained it. But I did love that, of course, this case got us to see Sam, which we hadn't seen in a long time. I adore him. Sam. I love his bluntness and his just, I love it. So
I also love how he has an insistence on he doesn't need the spotlight. He knows how good he is. He doesn't need to be paraded around because he's fully confident in his abilities on his own. He doesn't need anybody else to tell him.
And I do feel bad sometimes with Crockett, because I don't think it's necessarily that he needs the spotlight, but he doesn't mind the spotlight.
That's he'll
do it. And I think I think in his mind, like doing this really is for the benefit of the hospital. You know, I mean, he's doing it for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was really appreciative of like, I feel like he was a good balance in the surgery of, you know, obviously getting them the footage they need, but also when it was time, like being like, you need to step back. Like, so I was happy with that, I think. For the
And I
most part.
think it almost felt like the way that Jack set it up, Jack Dayton, the way he set it up, because Sharon and Crockett, we see them talking with the film crew at first. And then the film crew almost ignore Sam from the moment he says, your show pony's right there. They basically ignore Sam. But I almost feel like Jack set it up to be like, Crockett will do whatever you want. He'll be there for whatever you need. And I think that was setting Crockett on edge, because Crockett had to say more than once, I told you to back up.
Yes.
But it was almost like they thought, well, we can do whatever we want because it's Crockett. And Jack Dayton is his boss. And Jack Dayton said, but I do like, I know we've been saying this for a while. I hope that this is going to start the return of the Crockett that we fell in love with, who was unafraid, uninhibited, truly seeking out the best for his patients, because even Sam looked at him and was like, do it a couple times during the surgery. And then he watched Crockett do this crazy hard thing where I couldn't tell, because they were saying we couldn't move him. But then when he had to put the needle into the heart, they moved him a little bit. And then Crockett, he didn't have anything guiding him. He didn't have anything to show where he needs to go. And yet he did it flawlessly. Yeah. Did it take a little extra time? Sure. But he's good. He's genuinely good. And I think we've gotten away from how good he is because we've been focusing on 2.0 so much as this character. And I'm ready for 2.0 to just disappear.
I do hate that though, because I mean, there are also benefits to 2.0. We saw that here where Sam was sort of like, I don't need this, blah, 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 you know, as far as, and I think he realized, okay, well, that was helpful actually. Yeah. So like, I hate that we are focusing so hard and making 2.0 like our villain, basically. Yeah. Because it doesn't have to be. I mean, it sounds a great tool for these doctors to have. And I mean, I know it's just for drama's sake and we've got to have this. I'd love to see it get wrapped up, and I would love for 2.0 to still be there, but be as like
not be a character.
Yes. I mean, just we don't have to talk about it so much. They're just in there and they use the you know, things that it has to offer, and you just go along with it. It doesn't have to be so, I don't know, polarizing between the characters of, you know, I don't know.
And it doesn't have to change the doctors.
Yes.
But they've allowed 2.0 to change Crockett. And that, I mean, to the point where, go ahead.
I think it's not so much, even though it's looking like it's 2.0 that's doing this. It's not 2.0, it's Jack Dayton. And I'm hoping that we're moving towards seeing that he might be the villain in the storyline, not necessarily this equipment that's being brought to him.
Well, I think Jack Dayton's methods are off. And I think his focus is so much on tech, but I think Crockett has allowed 2.0 to it's attacked his confidence, because now he almost can't do a surgery without it. There was that one surgery where 2.0 stopped working and Crockett actually looked at the nurse and said, now what do I do? Like, you would have never asked that before. You would have just done what you know how to do. To the point that Song of all people had to say, trust your gut. Like what? Yeah. Where did the Crockett go who didn't trust it? And that's down to his full reliance on 2.0. But it's because he was awed and amazed by the technology and what it's capable of. And then he started to second guess himself in that.
Yeah. I have a question, because you just mentioned Dr. Song and the 2.0. When the first episode we brought 2.0 in, it was a different female doctor.
Dupree, where
did she go?
They didn't explain that. We were complaining about that when Dr. Song came on. We were upset about that because Dr. Dupree and Crockett had such good chemistry. And all of us were like, they're going to be a thing. And then she just disappeared.
Like when Dr. Song first came in, I thought, okay, cool. She's going to still be working, but she's going to be working on like techie stuff, like in a different way. Yeah. And then it's like, she just took Dr. Dupree's job. I like it.
She did. Yeah. Cause that's even when Jack Dayton introduced
her
Song.
To come back to where they would like, you know, different times, different ones would be in there doing stuff, but it's like, she's not coming back, I guess.
And even when Jack introduced Dr. Song, it wasn't as that. It was she was going to be running the tests like she does in every other hospital. Yeah. This is the first 2.0. Dr. Song works for Jack Dayton separately. So she wouldn't have worked with another 2.0 because this is the first 2.0.
Right.
So they didn't address it.
This bothers me still. I'm just like, oh, because I liked that new doctor.
Yes, because her and Crockett were like, that
Yeah,
was
they
good
had good
chemistry.
chemistry,
That was
yes.
nice. And with this
Instead, we get Will and Grace.
Song and Will. I could not believe that was the connection that they made. What did Will say? If memory serves, they were just friends.
They were just good friends. And that was my thought too. See, no chemistry.
And one of them was gay.
Yes.
So what are you getting at there, Hannah? But the other thing with 2.0 this week, and the reason that they allow them in there is because that board member, whose name I also don't remember, because again, they keep introducing all these new people.
So I'm okay with not remembering it.
No,
he upset me again this week.
I don't think, I didn't get as upset with him because I think he's just trying to fulfill what he believes in, setting Chicago apart from other hospitals so people will come to Chicago. So I get why he believes that.
Do,
and he did listen to Sharon. And
what I just think he's a bad fit for Sharon. Again, I just think it's just not, I don't know.
Oh, I don't see them as like, I think it's clear that he wants romanticism from her, but I don't see anything there either, except from that very first episode where they had dinner together and they laughed. Other than that, I haven't seen anything beyond that.
No, because every other time he's gone against what she's trying to do.
I think he sides with her, but he's also Jack Dayton as his boss too. So because even in this episode, what he said is Jack won't be happy. So he went down there as that voice because Jack's his boss. But I mean, you would expect any of the others to do that for Sharon too. They don't, because they don't give two craps.
Yeah. No, I get it. I don't know.
And I did like watching how, because he didn't come at them for how Sharon and Charles protected this mom. That's because true. The film crew wanted to come out and be like, hey, there's a problem with your son. Let's get your reaction. And obviously the right thing to do there is, no, the doctors need to come out and address this.
Can you
Not
imagine?
A film crew who doesn't know anything about medicine.
Exactly. You would have had her. She was already such a torn up mess over this. Like, I don't know. I felt so sorry for her when she was in Dr. Charles's office, and she was basically like,
when she found out he was healed,
herself for like being upset that he's better, which and I mean, I was sitting there as he's telling her, I'm like, no, I think like any parent would understand what you're feeling right now. Like, we understand like that you don't want your son to, but it is sad that they don't, when they don't need you anymore. You know, I mean, there is a little bit of sadness in that, even though that's our goal, but there is some sadness there, you know?
And there's another layer too, that this has defined her entire parenting life. Like she has been caretaker, and she even said, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Her one single job has been completely taken away.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know what she's going to do now.
Yeah.
So I get that too.
Yeah. No, I definitely get it. I felt really upset.
I did cry with her when she was.
Did too. Yeah.
That was hard to watch because and even Dr. Charles says every parent in the world can sympathize with you. And we all did, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree with you that we are going to see Jack Dayton be the villain, because at the end, Sam, I love Sam.
I love him.
I want to be friends with him.
Yes. I love him so much.
Just the way he delivers things. So like, we did this game in our youth group, and it's one of the questions was, what is something you like about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And we all had to answer it. And mine was, I like that I'm direct, because I would rather know, hey, I have a problem with you. Here it is.
Yeah.
Or I'd like to leave a conversation sure of what just happened. I don't like the passive aggression, and I don't like the subtleties, and I don't like the fake. I can't stand it. And Dr. Sam is so no nonsense about everything. And he looks at Crockett and says, you pick some weird heroes.
Yeah.
He tells him point blank, it's no longer 2.0 is no longer standardized care. It's only going to be done through paying customers who pay specifically for 2.0. It's not even just that customers who have good insurance. It's people have to pay out of pocket extra special for 2.0.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Poor Crockett's face too. I mean, he just looks so disappointed, and because that's not what he signed up for. You know, I mean, this is meant to be a tool to help people, not to make money for the hospital, which I get that hospitals have to make money. I understand that is how you run things. I'm not saying that I don't get that. So like, I understand those things, but like, this is something so we're saying just because you're poor, and what if this is the only thing that can save your life, but because you're poor, your life isn't worth enough to use this. That whole thing bothers me. And I think we're going to see, it's obviously going to bother Crockett.
Yeah.
I mean, it bothers Sam. I think the whole hospital, I think we're going to end up having like a mutiny against Jack Dayton and all of his stuff. Because I think otherwise, I don't think any of them are going to stand for that being what's going on.
I think it'll be split down the middle probably.
I
Because
can't imagine
our
who would,
characters
though.
will.
Okay.
But you know that there's characters surgeons who are just like, yeah, we're here to make money. I mean, you look at all of our medical shows, there's always surgeons or doctors who are like, oh, we just need money. I need my stats up. I need, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think there
all
are
of
going to
our
be some of
people
those.
are going to be standing against it, though.
And Sharon put it super good when she was talking to that board member. She said, well, when we stop caring about our patients, then who are we?
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. You do have an understanding that the hospital needs to make money. Otherwise, it won't be able to help anybody. But when that is your sole priority over patient care, are you really serving anybody? You're not. You're not caring for anybody.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
And people are going to stop coming to you. Unless you privatize your hospital, people are going to stop coming to you because they can't afford you.
They can't afford it. Yep.
And, Sam's personality that's something that we love so much about him, is how direct he is and how he says exactly what he means. And he is one who's going to be very upset about, or he already is. We can see he already is. But I think Dean is also one who's going to be, I think he'll be equal parts upset that Jack is doing this, but also, I told you I didn't like this thing.
Yeah. Like Dean this week, I don't know. And even like, I remember like the last few weeks, okay, I've noticed the things that I used to hate about him, that I'd be like, oh, almost like puts a smile on my face. And I'm like, he's just being so grumpy and silly. Like now it makes me like laugh and I smile about it. And I'm like, how did that happen? Because now it's like, I just understand his personality. And I understand that deep down, he's like a little tender-hearted like guy or whatever, but he has this like gruff exterior. And so now I just laugh at his grumpiness. But I don't know, I noticed that this week. I can't remember. He said something to someone and I was just like, look at him, silly. Yeah, he was so mean to Zach. Now later on when he got a little too mean, I was like, no. But like at first he kept making little comments, like it's little snide comments he would make, and I would laugh at him. And I'm like, these are the things I was mad at him about like a year ago.
Well, that's because it was also to your people.
Yeah, but I like Zach. So I mean, like, I don't want him to be mean to him. It's like I understand Dean now, and so it's easier to forgive it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. His whole thing this week of just trying to not feel or be seen as weak in front of all of his colleagues or whatever, being a burden as he called it. Like I guess I get it, because I would probably be the same way. But at the same time, like, you were getting to the point where it was like now affecting like the people you're trying to help. You can't let it affect the patient care just because you're being too prideful. Like that's not okay,
And I think he was extra hard this week because he even said when he found out Sean got a job there, when he was talking to Hannah, he said,
I'm like, this is how we get to keep Sean. He's going to work at the hospital somehow. I love it.
I was kind of hoping that they would put that in there somehow.
Yeah.
But he even said to Hannah, everyone here already knows. So now there's no way he's not going to find out. So I think part of why they wrote Dean this aggressively mean this week is because he's trying to show everyone, I'm fine. So that doesn't get back to Sean how bad he is.
Yeah.
And so I don't think he would have been as aggressively mean to Zach or to anybody really, because he even like took it out on Maggie a little bit, and Maggie was like,
she didn't even
that's
hesitate.
Not happening.
No, we're not doing that.
But I think that's part of why he was so aggressive, is because he didn't want anyone to report to Sean or give Sean condolences about how bad his dad was or how much he was suffering.
Yeah no, I agree. I mean, but like, I'm glad that Sean needs to know. I'm glad, like Hannah was saying, like this isn't like, you can't, and I'm glad that she brought up that his sobriety is dependent on both of you all being honest with each other. Like, imagine if you didn't tell him and then he found out when something really terrible happened to you. How do you think that would affect his sobriety?
Yeah.
You have to sort of be honest, like with what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being caught by surprise is one of the worst things that you could do.
Oh, absolutely. But that conversation with Maggie, I loved it. Just the way she she took charge of the situation, like just pulled him aside, and she wasn't even like, it's not even like she got all grumpy and like yelled at him or like lectured him in any way. She was just like, look, I've been there. And I remember as she was talking about it, I was thinking, oh, even before she said it, I was like, oh yeah, Maggie, you
Yep.
did the same thing. And so it was nice to see her recognize that and like telling like, this isn't going to get you anywhere. Like, we're here to be your family. We're here to be your support system. It's not about being a burden. Like we love and care for you. So I'm glad that she got through to him that way. And I mean, he obviously like heard her because he let Hannah help him.
Well, did he let Hannah help him? Because I think he went up to Dean or he went up to Sean and told him himself. And then when Hannah showed up, he said, "I'm sure you're gonna want to
But
applaud
he
this
let
or
her
whatever."
he let her come home and like, I mean, he didn't
Oh,
have to
that's
do
right.
it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, she's hanging out at his house. Like they're gonna sleep together. I just know it.
Well, for the way that Maggie handled it too, I just want to touch on real quick because I like even how she handled like
Yeah.
Maggie knows her ER. And I like that when Zach walked away to another patient, Maggie was like, "Okay, I'll help you." And then the moment that curtain was closed, she was like, "You do not get to talk to my people like this in my ER." So she didn't shame him. She didn't let anyone else know that she was upset and couldn't talk to him. She just, and
Yeah.
what she said was accepting kindness is not weakness, it's a strength.
Yeah.
And that was what hit him, is because what Dean wants more than anyone else is for people to see him as strong. And
Mhm.
I completely agree with you. I don't like where the Hannah Dean storyline is going. I don't like it, especially because you can clearly see that. And maybe I'm just seeing it more because Luigi was like, "Hey, I think Hannah and Sean together would be cool." But it feels to me like Sean has a thing for Hannah.
I said, he didn't actually say that, right? Like not in those words. We took something he said minor and we manifested all of that,
No,
which I'm totally fine with because I still like am for it.
didn't we say what is something you would like to see happen with your character? And he said, "I think it might be interesting to see like a Hannah Sean storyline."
Yeah, but he might have said that, but he definitely didn't. He did not say that there would be a romantic storyline.
No, absolutely not. He did. He said he thought that would be cool to see it play out.
We manifested that.
Yes.
And it's because they're friends. Like, I mean, I know all of them are like friends on social media, but probably because he put this in my head. Every time Jesse posts something and I see that Luigi liked it, I'm like, look at this. Like, those are the real people. Like, so I don't know why my mind is even going there. I mean, they may very well be involved, or I mean, she may be married even. I don't know. But like, this is where I am like so like seeing this now. And even at the beginning of this episode, when we heard that she got him the job, I was like,
Yep.
ooh, love it.
Every
And then
time they're mentioned to go, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a thing.
But I don't think it actually is.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think it's partly because of our interview with him that now I'm seeing
So
like, oh, he
disappointed.
clearly likes her. He's clearly into her. That's a thing. Even though it was never,
But
no
the
writer
thing
ever said
is-
that. Even Luigi never said that. But because
No,
that's
he
what we
didn't.
want,
Yeah.
now I'm seeing it.
But for me, that relationship would make more sense than her and Dean. Dean is
100%.
old enough to be her father. And you know what? People, you do you. I'm not really worried about age gaps in relationships. I really don't. Okay. It's not for me, but it's fine. But the vibe just feels more fatherly, like to me. But I really think that's where we're going.
I agree completely. Unless there's a way to get like Sean and her, like maybe she and Sean will work out something with Dean, like a schedule we'll each be taking care of them, and then they get closer that way, maybe.
Because I do think Dean is eventually going to need this transplant. I think that's coming.
And I think it'll be Sean's.
Yeah. But we need Hannah and Sean to have some more scenes together for this to play out. Like, not just hearing about it. Like, we need them to actually like be on screen together.
Absolutely. And I think now that we may have started something with the online community that Sean.
I like it. Let's do it, please.
Especially since they're so clearly moving Will in a different direction.
You know.
And we want Luigi to stay on the show, and this is a way we can get him to stay on the show. So
yes.
And next week we're getting so much more of Archer too.
Mm-hmm. Been a lot of Archer lately. A lot. Yeah.
The only thing that we saw from the preview for next week is this one case, but we know that's the other thing too, is all the previews every week show us just one single case. And then there's like 45 in the episode.
Exactly. So much.
So what we see in the preview is Archer sort of battling with this patient who he refuses the surgery, but if he refuses it, it's going to paralyze him. And Archer has to have a conversation with Dr. Charles. And that seems like I feel like Dr. Charles is getting irritated with him in the preview. So there's going to be some heat there. And that's all we're really shown for next week. Yeah. So we can be certain at least that Dean is going to almost take a Will-like approach to his patients, because it seems like he's pretty irritated. This guy wants to paralyze himself and won't take this thing. And
Yeah.
we've seen Will make decisions like that before where he's just,
Oh, absolutely. They tend to think that they know more than the patient, which, is not cool, but I like the passion behind that. So
yes, let's just not let that be what let
I don't want
turns
that to
Hannah
happen
to
to
him.
me in real life, obviously, but
No.
Yeah.
So that's what we got for next week. That's all they gave us. It was like a half, and all the previews this week in Chicago were like half a second clips.
Yeah, they were.
So now we're just going to jump right into fire and dig in there.
Yeah. Beginning in this episode, though, this was nice. We got like a little tiny mention about Stella's visit with Severide and how that went. And we know like she had been worried that he may not return, but apparently he says he can't wait to get back to 51. So that's promising. Hopefully that means that I don't know what that means though, because I don't know that I've seen any confirmation that Taylor is definitely coming back, but I don't know why they would say that if not. So hopefully that means that he is going to come back.
Because they went out of their way to say that.
Yeah. When I don't think they didn't have to do that part. They could say that he was doing fine and, he misses everyone without saying the words, he can't wait to get back to 51. Now that's not to say something couldn't change his mind. I guess it's possible. But I mean, without Kelly there, I think I am enjoying sort of Joe taking the leadership role of squad while Kelly's gone.
And we saw a little bit of this in Stella when she first became lieutenant. She was timid at first about how to be the lieutenant, and Joe's doing that too. What did make me sad, and I hope that they fix this quick, because Joe fought so hard to get Javi. Him and Chloe did. They wanted to have him so bad. They want to be everything for him. They want to be parents to him. I didn't like seeing the pain on Javi's face when he asked Joe to show up.
Here's the thing. I don't like, this happened last week too, when Bowden was like, you've got to do this. And he, made the comment, oh, but I was supposed to be at Javi's whatever. And Bo just kind of gave him this look like, I don't really care. I don't like that approach. Like, I understand that, like, sometimes, yes, things are going to come up that you cannot get out of. You have to do them, whatever. But, like, let's have some compassion for the fact that, like, I mean, like, Bowden, you have a child too.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, like, I understand jobs are important. Your careers are important. Great. I look at life as my kids are only small once.
Yep.
And now, granted, no, sometimes you cannot be at everything. And that's unfortunate. But you can't miss all of his games.
Yeah.
I'm not cool with that, actually.
No, at all.
That's disappointing to Javi. And
that's not who Joe is.
You're never going to get these moments back. Once they're gone, they're gone. And so I agree. It bothered me that we're just sort of so nonchalantly like, well, that's just life. Your kids just aren't as important. I mean, that's not how I look at things. And I don't like that at all.
And it's never been who Joe Cruz is. Never, ever.
No.
And didn't he even say he missed the first time Otis said Javi's name?
Yes.
So they're like, he's missing big things.
Yes.
And I get, like, last week it was a little more, I didn't like Bowden's attitude about it at all. I was like, that doesn't feel like Bowden either.
Yeah.
But I get that the specific training that Joe needed was offered at that time, and it wasn't going to be able for a long time, and he needed that. I get that.
Sure.
But to have it continue, like, what is the added work? Like, you look at Kelly, he didn't have, and Estella and Chris, they all have lives outside of the firehouse. They're all lieutenants. Yeah. Chris has 4 or 5 other kids and a wife, and he's still a parent to all of them. Plus he owns Molly's. Yeah. What is it that they have Joe doing that's taking over everything? I get the training, but the training should have been that one time.
Yeah. I agree.
Because he's interim. He's not, unless they're having him do lieutenant classes. I remember that took over a lot of time for Chris.
Yeah.
But they said they're not doing that.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I didn't care for it though.
I don't like that. And the other thing I don't like is freaking Banford. Oh, I don't like that guy.
That guy, like, okay, so it really bothered me. Like, there were lots of things that he did. He had little, like, kind of being snarky to crews and things like that. Like,
I don't need a babysitter, but okay.
But the biggest thing, this is what I didn't get. When he said something bad about Cindy, here's my thing, okay? One, even if she wasn't sick, even if she was not sick,
you don't know her.
You don't know her. You don't even know Herman well enough. Like, I think I said this, I was talking to Eve or somebody, and I'm like, I'm like, my husband, he may call me things like, he may think I'm a psycho sometimes, and he can very well say it. I can promise you, if anyone else in the world said it, he's going to go off on them.
Yep.
I mean, it's just the way, like, also, I mean, like, I can say things about my husband. Don't anyone else come and say them about him, because I'm going to get super defensive because he's mine, like, so it was just weird that you would feel that brave to say that regardless of like anything. I mean, like, you don't know the situation at all. So
Mhm.
it was very weird to me that you thought that that was going to fly.
Yeah. And he just, the fact that he showed that much, and even if he did know, I mean, Chris is still a lieutenant. That's still,
Yes.
he's still higher than you. He's still
Yeah.
a boss in 51. If that lieutenant, even if it's not your direct truck lieutenant,
Yeah.
he tells you to do something, you go do it.
Yeah.
So for him to come at not just Cruz, but also come at Crit, because he originally he wasn't saying anything bad about Cindy at first. He was saying something bad about Herman, and then he dug into Cindy like, what?
Yeah.
And then he's even trying to rally the other guys against Cruz, even when he was saying, yeah, he tried to tighten my leash, and I still made the save. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Cruz was still there, and Cruz is the one who directed you to do something, and he told you where to go and how to do it. So for you to come back to the house and then try to get all his guys against him, and then you come at someone who's been there longer than anyone other than Mouch.
Yes.
And you come at him. I just
read the room anyways.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way 51 operates. Like,
exactly.
they all give each other like a little hard time here and there, but it's never like that. It's always in like a good fun type situation. It's never like actually like roasting someone else like that.
Yeah.
Like, they don't, that's not how they roll. And so that was weird to me.
And even Carter said that to him because Cruz wanted to take him out again. And he looked at Carver and said, I just had a beer with him last week. Is this how 51 is? And Carver said, well, yeah, but you get used to it. It's kind of, that's who we are.
Yeah.
And Carver's still new, and you couldn't listen to the new guy. And
it was weird. Yeah.
So you know that they were just trying to get rid of him the moment they wrote in for him to insult Cindy, because Cindy and Chris are kind of off limits in the fandom. I was reading an article about if she actually, the actress had cancer, and there's no signs that she does live in real life, but she's a very private actress. So there's not a lot we know about her personally. But you were seeing the responses to people from the episode where she got cancer. I'm like, the one thing we're not going to do is mess with Cindy Herman. If Cindy Herman dies, we're rioting. Like, all these people were so angry that you dared to touch Cindy and Chris. So they wrote Banford to attack Cindy and Chris because that was the easiest way to be like, all right, no one's going to care if we kick him off the show.
Bye.
He's all done. And that's what Joe did. And that was Joe's thing this episode, was he didn't want to be responsible for a black mark on somebody else. It was Bowden who said, you have to write a complaint. And that was what made it clear, is because he said, but I'm not a lieutenant. So that's the other reason why we're all confused on what this extra work is he's got to do.
What he's doing. Yeah. Yeah.
But Bowden said, you had to make the choice. Either you get rid of him or you make it work. And after saying that about Cindy, there was no making it work. So he let him go. And he thought for sure that meant he wasn't up to it. But Stella tells him, you're all leader. I hate to tell, I think she said something like, I hate to tell you this, Joe Cruz, but you're all leader. This just proved it. So, it's kind of, it's nice to see Cruz step up as leader. But one thing that's missing in Kelly's absence is the excitement and the big saves, because I think Taylor Kinney had more training into that. Yeah. And I think he's worked longer to do that stuff. So we missed the action that way. But Amble 61, every week I feel like they're getting like these big calls, and we're spending more time focused on Amble 61 than we are on the trucks at the firehouse.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I mean, the calls that they had this week, I mean, this was even what was in the preview last week, which, it was a much smaller amount of the show than like I expected it to be. I was thinking we were having like another infection type episode where it's crazy.
I also thought Med was going to have much more of a presence on the show.
I know, like Will's only appearance was what we actually saw in the preview. That's okay. Okay. But this was wild. Like, so like they showed up that one guy, the husband, super erratic, like, I mean, just acting absolutely crazy. And then they got him, they obviously got him to Med. They went back to Med for something else. And that's when they saw one of the other ambulances bringing in someone else who had a very similar symptoms. And that's when they talked to Will, and he was like, we need to figure out what's going on, because this could be like, some sort of outbreak type situation. And then what? Okay, so Brett brought up these Tylenol murders of 82, which granted I was just born in 82, but I've never heard of this. Like,
I
but
have.
it you had okay I've never
Because that
heard
was that was actually something. I don't know if it was exactly Tylenol. I just remember hearing about when people would put things in the pill bottles, and
Yeah.
that's when they made the law to put the seal on all the medicine bottles.
And I wonder if that's also like because not all, but some medicine bottles also have that like cotton in there, which
Yeah.
I feel like that would be helpful because if something
Soak it
was
up.
injected, it would soak it up right there and wouldn't
Mhm.
make it to the pills. I mean, not all pill bottles have those though. Like most of them do, but some of them don't. Like,
Oh, I barely have any with cotton in them anymore.
I know. I'm trying to think if it's. I was trying to picture in my head if it's a different like maybe if it's the ones that aren't gel coated, like maybe they do because I don't know. I don't know. I've seen it still in a few, anyways. But anyways, I don't know. That was interesting to me because I was like, oh my god, like now I'm gonna be like super vigilant about like checking to make sure like these haven't been tampered with when I get them because like now I'm like
Didn't Violet say
concerned.
the same thing?
She did, and that's how I felt because I'm thinking, okay, with all this stuff I've had in my mouth, I've been like eating Advil like it's freaking candy over the last couple months. I'm like, imagine how many bottles I went through. What if there had been something done to them? Like, I don't know. It freaked me out. I didn't like it at all. But I don't know. It was cool though. This case brought not only a guest appearance from Will, but we got a guest appearance from Haley. I'm like, man,
Yep.
they talked about Voight. So I'm like, man, we are getting all kinds of
Mhm.
little tiny crossovers here. But I thought it was pretty cool.
I did think how crazy it was that Brett's head went that far back. Like,
Brett's
I
younger
couldn't
than me. Like she
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
wasn't born in 82. You know?
Yes. And so genuinely couldn't figure it out how she jumped to that. But you could see the whole episode that Brett just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Well, and I wonder if I feel like she's that person that is just super knowledgeable about like things like this. Like she probably sits and does research on like crazy cases that have happened in the past just for fun in her own leisure time. I could just see her doing that,
Yeah.
Whereas Violet, I don't think Violet would do something like that.
No.
Yeah, I mean Brett and Violet, I do like seeing because I like seeing them be sort of the heroes.
Mhm.
But Mouch definitely had his own heroic moment this episode, right?
Get a couple of them this
He did.
week.
Yeah.
I like when we focus on Herman and Mouch because I think
do
that
too.
they're just so fantastic. But Mouch, it was. Go ahead.
He's one of those like I forget how fantastic he is until we
Yeah.
focus on him, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love him. Like, let's do this more.
Mm-hmm. He's so like he's not Cap level funny because Cap is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But Mouch is funny.
Yes.
And I love Mouch.
But in a different kind of way. Like, I mean, like
Mhm.
Cap is funny in that like goofy, like, oh my God, I can't
Yes.
believe you said that kind of way. Mouch is just that man is just who he is.
Yes.
Like just who he's always been. He will make no apologies for it. Like, I don't know. I think
Who
he's
was the new guy a couple weeks ago when Mouch had the pillow on the couch? He was like, "How do you get this?" And Mouch went, "Have a heart attack."
Yes, I forget who was that said that. But it was the guy filling in on that had the crush on Violet, right?
But
He
I
was
just thought
filling
that
in
was
for
great.
someone, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it might have been when Brett went to go visit Casey. Maybe was
Maybe
it that far back?
no, because that was why Gallo and Violet kissed. It was that guy that was like at the firehouse.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
I don't remember who he
That
was
is who it
filling in
was.
for though. I don't
I
know.
don't remember
Anyways,
either. But it was definitely on. I think he was on the truck, wasn't he?
I think so.
But this week, Mouch, it was the blood drive that they were called to. That was the only fire we saw this week. Was the fire at? Was that a school or because it didn't look like a hospital? Because Stella had to ask, "What's happening here?" Because she saw the blood going up the steps.
Yeah.
So I couldn't figure out where they were at, but they were having a
Oh.
blood drive wherever they
Yeah.
were. And
Yeah.
that poor woman in there was trying to put out the fire with a water bottle.
No,
I
like
felt so
sweetheart,
bad
that's not
for
what I
her.
do.
And
I mean,
Mouch got to carry out the cooler full of blood and be the hero. And Stella even gave him the nod of approval. And it was just
yeah. That's something like normally when people are like being difficult in these fires, you're like, come on, save yourself. But in this case, I mean, that is something really important. I mean, like that's gonna a lot of people
hundreds.
to be hurt by this going to waste. And like, so I don't know. I thought that was fun to see him be the hero and bring that out,
And it was right after that when you kind of see him trying to be the hero in another way because he was commissioned to build this model fire truck. And I love how everyone's looking at him. And I think it was Brett who said,
So
isn't this supposed to be like a fun stress reliever? Like, no, this is like a real thing.
that whole conversation was so funny. I mean, because he is so serious about it. Like, it made me think of my uncle is really into puzzles. And like to the point that like if he's got a puzzle like going, like on like don't touch it, because he's actually going to get really upset with you that if like you mess up the progress he's already made. And so it made me feel like that. Like I think we had a birthday party even, and he had it on the kitchen table. And so my aunt had just put the tablecloth over it, and she like had to tell everybody, please be very careful. There is a puzzle underneath this. We are not allowed to like mess up, because he'll get really upset. Because like it's his thing. He loves to do puzzles. I don't know. Made me think about.
Well, this one was even more intense because this other chief comes in and he makes a big deal about it being for his dying dad.
Yeah.
And then Mouch went a little insane. Like he went a little crazy over the missing. What was it? A cannon? Oh, a gun.
Some kind of little gun.
Water gun. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but Ritter and Gallo trying to find, they've got one down it was funny, they said the target down on something, and in my head I was like, me and Maureen saw that target. It's the big one. Like I remember us seeing it.
We did,
because whatever road
right by 51,
whatever road they said, I remembered the name of that road. I was like, oh, that's that target that had the multiple floors and the garage to park in. And I remember thinking like, this is a crazy target. I think that's the one he was talking about. Well, he didn't say Halstead this time, but you'll have to go back and watch. Whatever street it was the street that stuck out in my brain. Like we were on that street several times when we were there. And
if you go to Chicago to catch the filming, by the way, all roads lead to Halstead.
You're always
all of them too.
At some point you were on Halstead all the time.
We were on that road like 70,000 different times.
We were.
Okay. So they're looking for this. And I like that even when Gallo and Ritter come in, and Ritter was like, Gallo even scoured the dark web.
I think I almost bought, what did he say? Like something from, he's like, I'm probably on a list somewhere now. Cracking up. I was like, only Gallo would get himself put on some sort of list from doing this.
I love that was a weird sentence. I love every scene we get with them when they're just chilling at the firehouse. That's Gallo and Ritter together.
Absolutely.
They're just amazing.
Absolutely. And honestly, I love it when Violet and Brett are involved too, because Brett's really funny with that group of guys too. Like,
yep. I agree. I like Brett with them too. And I think that in this one, Gallo or Ritter actually found one at a store and he bought it for him. And Mouch is freaking out. No, he'll notice that it was a toy. It's not the same level, whatever. And then they find someone on Reddit and all he wanted is free. All he wanted was an item from the truck. So they gave him I don't think that it was a smart idea to give this random dude off of Reddit the Slamigan.
I agree. I was like, do we know this guy? Like, what's he going to do with this?
They're breaking into people's homes. It's going to be all in the Chicago news.
Because they even said you can get into any door with this. And that in my head was like, oh, that's why are you giving him
ideas, Mouch? Like, why?
So crazy.
But then I love that Ritter's like, softly similar to the one that I got you.
Well, then the worst part is like when he finally gives it to the guy, it was a toy. He was just giving it to his daughter so that he could have a video of her playing with it to show her grandpa. And this little child is like, I mean, it makes me think, it kind of made me think of my kid, like playing with a toy, like rough. You know what I mean? Like
even Annabelle. Do you remember Annabelle Herman when she was young? Like,
all right.
My favorite part about this is when Mouch literally ran away, covering his eyes as he ran away from the porch. Just complete abject terror.
So funny.
But I mean, speaking of heroes, like Carver has become one of our favorite heroes in Kelly's absence, and not the only favorite hero of 51 because we love them all at 51. But he just keeps looking better and better every week.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm liking him a lot, and I don't know yet how I feel about, there's a little bit, we've been talking a lot about ships on this episode here. I think we're trying to start something with him and Violet.
I don't
possibly.
like it.
I don't think I like it either. I'm a little, I will say this, I like this better than I do Will and Grace though. I do. Okay. But here's my thing, like, because I think if Gallo was not in the mix, I would be 100% let's do Carver and Violet, because I do think they're well suited for each other. Because I mean, for me, and people hate me saying this, I liked the idea of him and Stella, but only if Kelly wasn't ever going to come back. I
Yes.
think the characters had good chemistry. They like were well suited for each other. Obviously, we didn't want to split her up with Kelly, so that was the only thing kind of holding us back there. I think Violet and Stella have similar personality traits. Not exactly, but similar. So I think this would work. But my issue with this is I feel like we really worked hard to like build the Gallo thing back up. And then we just forget it. Like,
And
I
I
mean,
know that they decided a couple weeks ago they were just going to be friends, but we also, most of the fandom wants them to be endgame.
they
So
said that, but it didn't feel like in that scene that either one of them actually wanted that.
No.
It's just what they said. So I really thought by season end we were going to have them back together.
I would rather, I don't even know if I'm ready for them to be back together yet, as long as they end up together, because I really,
Yeah.
we've talked about this. We enjoy the friendship between those three so much.
But I also really like Carver. So like, I don't necessarily know that I want you to take it down the route with Violet if it's not, we know there's no chance that it's like in game either.
Yeah.
It just bother. I don't know. But I mean,
I'd rather see Violet with someone off screen, because Gallo's who most of us want her to be with in the end. So I'd rather
Like that
her have
magician guy.
relationships. Sure.
yeah, like a Dylan type, like,
Oh,
someone that
I thought you were saying you want Violet to take the magician guy.
no, I
from
mean
Brett.
she could if she wants, but like someone like him that we don't care anything for.
His name
so
is
that,
Dylan, by
I
the
know.
way.
I don't care for him at all. I don't know. I almost mentioned this whole Violet Carver thing on our recording last week, but I was like, nah, I'm making this up. Like, did I mention it? Okay, I didn't know if
so.
I did.
Or no, you mentioned it in our chat if we were picking up vibes.
Because last week when we recorded, I remember thinking it, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna say anything because I feel like I'm always the one just creating ships and like this isn't actually happening. So I'm glad that I was not wrong though, because this week I was like, it was definitely in our face, like they were flirting, there was something happening.
Especially when he downplayed the sale of his Bronco.
Yeah.
When he was like, well, no, it was just time for a change. It was just.
It's just so strange to me that I don't think Carver and Violet have even spoke to each other until last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been on all season. They've never even had one conversation. So
I think we're just supposed to be expected to be. I think we're just expected to believe that off camera, when we aren't seeing them, they're actually talking and hanging out just like they are with anybody else. But you can't, with people that we're invested in, you can't do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels awkward to me. I'm not completely like, no, don't do it, but I'm not sure.
I am. Because even when she was like, I told him that you did all the repairs in my building, that you did a great job, so don't screw it up. And Carter was like, I won't. And even that was like
the only reason I'm cool with this is if we find someone completely lovely for Gallo to have.
I want him with Violet too much, I think.
Because I love Gallo too much for him to feel the pain of this.
And he will.
I know.
They've made that clear. Even as recently as last week, they made that clear.
I know.
So don't create that kind of drama. We just started to like Carver. Don't do that.
Unless we're just doing this to sort of make them realize that no, they need to be together. Which, if that's the case, okay.
They got to do that right then, if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't want Carver to. He seems like he's really ready for something serious now. So like,
that's exactly it.
Him either.
Because we like him now. So don't make it so that we have to choose between him and Gallo. And don't make it so that Carver feels so awkward around them, because he and Gallo are the ones who have been getting along really well. Like they've been really, truly there for each other.
Yeah, exactly. So
don't make him break guy code. He can't do that.
No, not. I mean, he's already was kind of after Kelly's like wife. Like, let's not like
they're not on the same truck. They aren't buddies.
I know, but let's not put him in the middle of another firehouse couple potentially.
Yes, give him somebody new or
that's not.
Well, what are we gonna do if Kelly doesn't? If Kelly comes back, who are we gonna put him with then? Because we're pretty sure that Brett is leaving with Casey, aren't we?
Oh, are we? I don't know.
I mean, you can't bring Matt Casey back and then not have anything between him and Brett unless they're coming back to solidify they're done. But that would be a little painful for everybody.
Well, why do we need to do that? Like they already were done. Okay. Why do we need to do that again? I don't
But he's
know.
coming back. You gonna tell me that nothing is gonna be said or done about them when he's back? Because
It's got to. I don't know.
it has to go one way or the other.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
But I could see Carver and Brett together sooner
I
than I could
thought
see
that-
Carver and Violet.
No, I thought that too. I mean, I don't know.
I
I
actually
thought that
like the idea of him and Brett.
Yeah, I think I've said that because I feel like Carver he's a little like Matt personality wise. I think he's a little more broody. He's like a mixture of Kelly and Matt, really. Like he's kind of got
That's a perfect way to describe him.
He's like Matt, but with Kelly's like, I'm so sad attitude sometimes. So yeah, we'll see. But no, I would like the idea of him and Brett better, but then you can't bring Matt back here and like tease me with like that perfection again.
Exactly.
Take it from me.
Do we know how long he's coming back for? Did they just say for an episode? Is all we are guaranteed?
I don't think they've said at all. I think we just know next episode.
Well, that feels mean.
I know.
Now Dick Wolf is just abjectly toying with the entire Chicago fandom. All these relationship possibilities are so great to watch play out, but nothing beats the OG 51 power couple. And it's the Hermans. Obviously, it's the Hermans. And watching Chris almost lay out Bamford was so satisfying when he says, how did he say it? He said, "You'll never know a woman as good as Cindy Herman." And I mean, that was so satisfying. And I really wish she would have just taken a swipe at him, even if it was like after hours. Punch Bamford out. That would have soothed my soul. And the reason I wanted to end with this in Fire is because Cindy is so panicked as her thing keeps getting moved and the times keep changing and she just wants an answer. And I so relate to that. And when she's calm, Chris panics. And I love that scene where he comes in there and she's calm on the couch with the kids and everything's fine. Everything's great. Mm-hmm. But when he's talking to Bowden, I so related to that mentality of the fearful of, is it going to be okay? Is it not going to be okay? When do we know? And actually, the only thing that was unreal about this is typically they don't do a second scan, I guess, at least not here. We actually, something else had to go wrong with me for them to do a second scan after my treatment to see if the cancer was gone.
Really?
And my husband and I were so confused, like, what? But why wouldn't you do another scan after chemo was finished?
Why wouldn't you? Like, it seems like that would be normal.
Our oncologist said that that's not standard practice anymore. That they don't typically do that.
How do you
anymore.
know it's gone?
I don't know. I guess they give you medicine for 5. It used to be 10 years, but now you have to be on it for 5 to 7 years. And I guess they'll do a thing then. But who wants to hang over their head for 5 years?
No, I feel like I would be like, I'll pay for it out of pocket. I'll do something like scan me. Like
$10,000 for that scam.
Well, I don't know what I'd do. Like, I need to have a fundraiser. Somebody help me. Like, I need this scan, please.
It's $9,989 for a PET scan.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, but maybe that was for just breast cancer patients because I had a mastectomy. So maybe that's why, I don't know, but she got the scan and all she wanted was to know. And I love the scene when Chris comes home. He's like, well, we'll call. And she gets in the car and he goes, well, okay. And he just gets in the car with her.
When they get to the doctor's office and the doctor leaves for a second, he's like, I think he's going to get security. And she's like, good. But I'm with her on that. Like, obviously I've not experienced that, but just, I mean, I know it's not relatable to my face and all that stuff, but like I feel like sometimes the doctors and they're so nonchalant about like what you're going through. Like, even if it is just to relieve my anxiety, please do that for me, because I'm sitting over on my phone looking stuff up. Like, I'm constantly like looking at stuff and I'm worrying myself to death. It would take no time at all for you to just like relieve my fears, please. And so I don't know. I think I loved that she stood up for herself. Yeah. She was like, no, we're not rescheduling me again.
Mm-hmm. And like, that's great that the doctor wants to save his best news for the end of the day. But what about the person who's actually receiving the best news?
Yeah. I mean, they have to wait all day to get that news. Like,
exactly. And it would be different if it wasn't the 16th time you moved her appointment.
Yes.
So one change, fine, maybe. But to continue to do it over and over and over again is insane.
And a change for no reason is what would bug me. Like, if you had an emergency come up that a patient that needed to get in there.
Exactly.
Like, that's different. But if you're doing it just for your own, like,
benefit,
I like it better this way. No,
that's no reason. Because this is stressful. This person could be dying or not. Yeah, it sucks to have to be the one to deliver that news, but you got into that field.
Yeah.
We didn't choose to get cancer. You
It
chose to be an
definitely
oncologist.
sucks worse to hear the news than for
Yeah.
you to deliver it.
Exactly.
So I mean, I don't know.
But I don't know if I was alone in this. I'm willing to bet I wasn't. I definitely cried when they got that news because Chris
my
and her
gosh,
both
yes.
crying. Oh my gosh. It just,
It just needed to happen. Like,
it was nice that they ended the episode on this too. They ended the episode on the best possible news they could, and then went into a preview where we see Matt Casey returning.
I mean, good news all around, right? No, I loved it.
He asked to see Stella. Stella walks in the room, and then it turns around Matt, and then we see him. Brett looks shocked, and they share a hug, and that's kind of where it ends. And that's why I think that they can't address that relationship.
Yeah.
Or they can't not, rather.
What does it mean? Like, I can't wait to find out. Like, I need to know, why is he back? How long is he going to stay? What does that mean for everyone else? Like, there's so many questions to be answered.
Yeah. And are we going to be satisfied if he leaves again and Brett doesn't go with him?
I mean, not really. But at the same time, I like Brett and I don't want to lose her, but I don't know. Really, the only solution I want is that Matt Casey returns and stays with us forever.
And maybe he will.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like Jesse has said in the past, at some point he will be back.
Oh, he has.
I feel, again, this is one of those, sometimes I hear these things, like people say, oh, Jesse said this, but I've not read those actual interviews. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I've heard that in several places before.
Well, they have been alluding to it all season 2 with the talks that Kelly and Brett were having about, I wish I went with him. I wish I did this. So
yeah,
there's a very real chance that could be exactly where it's headed. So I don't know. But that's next week. So it's the episode everyone's been waiting for is coming next week. So that's good. That's nice. That's all we got. And so now we can go into PD, which Jeanette has been dying to talk about since Wednesday.
Talk about episodes we've looked forward to.
We're going to save, just like we did with Fire, we're going to save Jeanette's best part for last.
Everyone's best part. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. No, I mean, this episode, and I mean, obviously I'm making jokes about the end being my favorite part. This was a good episode all around. Just one case we focused on this week, but I mean, this case led to so much with Kim. And so that's what I think was really cool about the way that they did this. Obviously, like, there's the string of robberies that Kim just, I always love to, how like they just so happen to, like, they turn on the radio and immediately a call pops up that they're right next to. I'm like, that's just so convenient. It always happens.
It works in the real world.
I'm sure, right? And I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, is that how this works? Like, you're off to your therapy and like literally you get in your car and you're back on duty? Like, not even just, I don't know. It seems a little crazy to me sometimes, but good thing that she was, because when she gets to this, robbery that's happening, there's, a man who is not doing so well. That, obviously she hadn't gotten there right away. I'm not sure that he would have made it.
Yeah. And even coming from therapy, she was able to help the guy who worked in the store. She utilized the tools she's been learning in therapy to help calm him down and get him to stay with her in the present.
I swear. I mean, Kim is
fantastic.
The people that don't love Kim, I don't understand it, because I see it in Facebook groups, not our Facebook group, but other ones, where they're all like, oh, here we are, the Kim show again. I'm like, excuse me, that's exactly what it should be, because Kim Burgess is like the best part of One Chicago, in my opinion. Like, this woman has been through a lot. Okay, let's give her a break, please.
I think a lot of it has to do with jealousy, because Adam Ruzek seems to be a favorite male cast member amongst the fandom.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you all don't have to be jealous. You can love them both. I do. I mean, he'll never meet a bigger Ruzek fan than me, but like, I love Kim too.
A, Adam Ruzek is not a real person, and B, you will never have a relationship with Adam Ruzek for the aforementioned reason. So that's no use getting jealous about it.
Let's be honest, you're not going to have a relationship with Patty Pfluger either. Like, as disappointing as this is, it's not going to happen. So just get over it, people. Okay. But no, I mean, she gets a lot of hate. I think people want to like see like all of her trauma as like this weakness, and they don't like seeing us dive into it. But like,
it shows her strength.
Absolutely. And I mean, we'll talk more about that later when we get to like all of that. But just in this, like, in this string of robberies, I'm not sure that anyone else could have handled things as well as she did in these cases. And it probably did, like you said, have to do with her therapy and being able to use those tools to help these people that have been affected by these robberies. There's so much in this episode, not just the end, that shows her and Adam and their connection. I think as soon as he heard over the radio that she's, arrived at this, this robbery and the shots were fired, I mean, he, it wasn't, I think they said that Callum was sick and so he's off duty from his undercover right now. But he came right over there to check on her because he heard shots were fired and he wanted to make sure that she was okay. And I mean, he's so attentive in helping her dive into these things. And I don't know, I just love their interactions together and how supportive of how he is for her all the time. But they eventually, I mean, like watching the stuff, which a little awkward that, I want to say, okay, when they saw what they saw on screen, for a second there, I was like, y'all, is this the sexual situations that like we're alluding to? Because I was about to get angry. Like, if this is what it is, I'm not happy right now. I almost messaged you all like, really, this better not be why there was like a certain rating. Obviously there was more, but for a second there that popped in my head and I was like, oh. But I mean, how awkward that they both were like, are they? That's weird. But I mean, it gave them they were able to go and I guess they found her mask. Is that what it was?
Because she took it off and put it in the dumpster.
Yeah. And there was hair like on it or whatever. So they're trying to get that.
And that hair matches something in the database. And so they were able to find him. But Ethan, because of how it matched in the database, they were able to find her apartment, able to find where her car was because they put a bullet on her car. Yeah. And then Adam and her find the next hit that they have because it was right by their car. They heard shots fired and they went over there and Ethan gets away. The shop owner bleeds out. He actually dies right there in Kim's arms. But Ruby is in the back in a state of complete shock, going over distance in cities over and over and over again.
It was heartbreaking, like watching her break down. I mean, I know that she had been involved in all these robberies and all these bad things, but it was clear to me that she was more of a victim than a perp, in my opinion. Just in the way that she was, I mean, obviously breaking down and,
I think probably equal parts. Brainwashed, yes, but she did fire a gun and she did. And I mean, I'm not saying that you have to ignore that, but you could also recognize the other half of it too.
The breakdown that she was having it wasn't something small. I mean, this was something that clearly, I mean, she was in a state of like complete panic. I mean, she was in a disassociative state with the way she was going through those like miles and things in her head. And again, I mean, I think Kim recognizing that she has also been in those same kind of states was the perfect person to respond to this. And like, I was afraid she was going to have to shoot her. The way she kept saying like, and you could tell Kim she's like, I don't want to shoot you. Like, you are going to have to respond to me right now. And so, finally she did.
But this is another area where Ruzick trusts Burgess.
Yes.
Because she had a hunch that the rapist that she had accused was the guy she was robbing people with. And immediately Adam said, all right, let's go. You and me.
Yes.
Let's go check it out.
That was one of my favorite scenes with him too, because he was even saying he didn't actually think that they were going to find anything from this, but because of the trust that he has in her and just the way he supports her, he was like, even if we're not going to find anything, like if you need to go check this out, let's go do it.
Yeah.
If that will help you, like we'll go do it. And so I just think it's amazing to see the way that they work off of each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she was right. Kim was right.
And
they're able to find him in the train yard.
Yes. And
this was a scene I loved.
Oh, I loved it. I just loved so much how, he went to fire, she fires back, and we zoom down to her hand and it's not shaking anymore. And it was just earlier in that episode after she had to fire those first shots, it was shaking a little. So in that amount of time, it was just this really great, like, she's really come so far. So that was,
and I even love that they zoomed in on the hand and then they panned up to Adam's face. And that's immediately where Adam's eyes was right to her hand. And he had this big grin on his face.
So proud.
There's a
Yeah.
dead guy sitting right in front of him, and I'm like, yeah.
We're not worried about that guy. We're not worried about that guy.
And doesn't
No.
Adam bring it up to her later too? That she wasn't
I-
shaking, and then she was like, "You're right, I wasn't."
Yeah, I think. Does he bring that up? I'm not sure. I
Mhm.
don't know, but I do remember hearing that because I think he even said the word that he was proud of her at some point
Yeah.
too. Like
We said the
that may
lockers.
have- yeah, that's when it was. Yeah, in the locker room. So no, it was good. The only thing that with this case, and normally I'm not on the train of like Voight's wrong for the way that he like handles situations. I don't know this time because obviously the ethical dilemma of how they even found out who Ruby was, I'm not sure that I agree with being able to use that.
I'm not sure I disagree.
I
'Cause
don't know what I think. The thing is though, I feel like I don't know. I watched SVU here and there, okay?
Mhm.
And I feel like I remember this being on some episode at some point, and Olivia Benson also being like, absolutely not. We're not using this because just like Haley said, that's another reason for someone to not come forward because they're afraid that their DNA is just out there to be used for anything at this point. And I think I don't know. I don't know that I agree with it. I mean, I agree that we have to do something. Like you had to do something to like catch these people. I get that. But I don't know. It felt wrong to me. And typically the way I go by things, if it feels wrong somehow, it's wrong.
Mhm.
And it felt wrong.
I guess for me, it was the way that Haley said it that was like, well, what? I guess I don't see the issue here. And she said, it was how she said it. She said, I wouldn't report my rape if I knew it would be used in this way. But the way it was being used was to identify this person who was once a victim as a criminal, who was a criminal, who was doing wrong things, who put someone in the hospital, who murdered another person,
Yeah.
who, I mean, all the
think for
people
me,
that they
it's
hurt. So I was like, well, you
just
wouldn't
the
come forward if
fear.
you felt that your DNA was going to be used to identify you in a crime.
Yeah.
Don't commit crime.
Yeah, but I think for me, it would be the fear of like not knowing how it could be used in the future. Do you know what I mean? Like just the unknown of like, here, I'm giving you my DNA. I'm doing this as one thing, as a victim. And then it's just out there. It can be pulled for anything. I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. So I think, and I thought it was interesting that, obviously it was Haley and Kim that had the biggest problem with it.
Adam had a little bit of a problem with it.
Adam had a little bit of problem, but I think it was only because it was Kim saying
It was
it. I'm not
affecting
sure.
Kim, I think.
And I think Kevin the same way. I think both of them, it was because it was affecting Kim. I would have loved for Trudy to have been in that conversation because I wonder right now we had the men versus the women. I honestly think Trudy would have sided with Kim and Haley for the most part. And I wonder if Hank wouldn't have listened to reason more from her on this.
But I think I don't know that she would have. I think she would have struggled because I think that she, as a woman, but also as a police officer, I mean, they didn't get it illegally. Her stuff is they actually didn't do anything wrong with getting this DNA sample. They realized the violence of the crimes that she was perpetrating and was helping to commit was so violent that it was killing people, and there was no sight of stopping. It was the only lead they had.
Yeah.
They didn't really have another choice at this point. Like they knew who she was. They couldn't just ignore that because she was once a victim. And I think even Hank said, yeah, she was a victim, but she's gone past that now. And she is now a criminal. And so I think that's what I was like, I don't see the ethical dilemma here. I think you don't have another choice. You got to use it.
And I can even see my way past that part of it because like I said, I kind of see both sides. I did have a little bit of issue with Hank also. Just the thing is, Hank makes deals with people all the time over everything.
He hasn't in a long time, but
yes, she clearly was a part of this, but I think you are seeing that she was broken. She was manipulated. She was probably gaslit by this abuser is what he was. And now she's helping you all. Why can't we make a deal for her?
I think I think what he was kind of saying to Kim, because I don't think he was against making a deal. I think he wanted to make sure that Kim wasn't making promises Kim couldn't keep, because it wouldn't be up to Kim to make that deal. It would be up to the ASA has to sign off on this. And especially after last week, we saw how the ASA, and this could have been part of it too. Maybe. The ASA was clearly upset with Hank for compromising her. that
Yeah.
she could have given pushback just for the sake of, no, I refuse to do anything that even
Yeah.
seems objective. So
Yeah.
Hank could have been operating off of that knowledge too of Kim. If you cannot personally ensure that this is true,
Yeah.
and I think there was a kindness to it where he's like, don't make her this promise if you cannot keep it.
Yeah. I don't know. There felt like a little bit of a coldness, I think, from him this week as far as some of this goes.
I felt like it was more looking out for Kim.
Maybe.
And I think part of it is because I think it is the divide of, is this ethical or is it not ethical? Do I have a problem with this and do I not have a problem with it? And I think that I was able to more see what Hank's position was because I didn't see the issue with using the DNA in that way. And I think,
I do
I
think,
don't know.
though, especially in the kind of lives that probably some of those people live
Mhm.
in certain areas,
Where crime is sort of, you have
yes,
to survive.
I can see why, if this became something that happened all the time, why it would deter a woman from reporting her rape.
Now that put in that perspective, it makes a little more sense because where I live, it's not a high crime rate. So
I'm not going to commit any crimes. Like, I'm
Yeah.
good, but like, I don't live in a world where I'm surrounded by crime.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
And I do think the other thing too is that, you know, he's dead. They ended up shooting the partner. Somebody's got to pay for this. And unfortunately, she is the one of the partner too. They have cameras where they see her holding the gun. They have her beating the guy. They have her participating
Well,
just as equal. He was doing more
He
beating, but
yeah, he was the more violent one. I mean, yes, she was
Mhm.
participating in the robberies, but I don't think we ever saw her being violent towards anyone.
no. But she is, because he's dead. Now the rap falls to her. And I think the ASA
Mhm.
is going to take on that. And I think it's unfortunate, but I think that Hank and Kim would be able to work it to a, clearly she has an issue. And I think it helped that Kim took her out to that bar. And what broke me about this was, you see when she takes her back to that bar that closed down, what she was repeating was a sign in the bar. That's
what
where
she
she was
saw.
raped. So you have to imagine that she was raped over and over and over again in the same spot for her to stare at that sign for that long, to memorize every name and every distance.
Yes.
So it was systematic, repeated rape and sexual abuse that made her retreat to a different mental state. And I think that can be used
Mhm.
in the court case. And I think they will.
And-
And I think Hank would
Yeah.
agree with it.
Yeah. Especially since we saw her, I mean, we witnessed her repeating those same things, which I took it as, like you said, I mean, her probably repeating that over in her head is how she disassociated herself during
While
the
it was
rape.
happening.
So, like,
Yep.
and so she was doing this yet again. So, I mean, it clear to me, not something she really wanted to be participating in, but
Mhm.
probably felt like she had no other options,
Yeah.
like, than to do what he was telling her to do. I saw her as more of a victim that was being manipulated into doing all of this.
Mhm. And I think the other thing too is that Hank wanted to be sure that she was, because she recanted. She
Mhm.
said he raped me, that she did the rape kit, and then she recanted. And I think Hank was trying to just tell her, because at the time she wasn't giving this guy up. At the
Yeah.
time she was saying, no, this is on me, this is on me, this is on me. I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it. And then Kim promised her things, and Hank was saying, don't make that promise.
Yeah.
But it was once that Kim told her this and they saw into it. So I think Hank's opinion might have changed a little bit towards the end. We just didn't get to see it because
Yeah.
she did come out and say, no, this happened. And it was also heartbreaking when Kim was interviewing this girl, and you would see her, the moment she mentioned Ethan, the girl's hands flew up to the table and she started like grabbing her fingers. And it was the same stress reaction that Kim does on herself.
Yes.
So Kim was able to get this stuff. So it's,
Yeah.
I think that I think Hank is the type of person who would come around, and he even says something to Kim at the end, because I think the other reason he cautioned her about that though is because, again, Hank's not stupid.
Right.
He recognized that Kim was relating to this on a very personal level.
Mhm.
And while he was telling her, don't make promises you can't keep, he followed it up with, I trust you to tell me if there's something more I need to know.
Yeah.
You can tell me these things and I've got your back. I think that was the other reason he was cautioning her, because
Mhm.
we have all seen Kim go gung ho in these cases that really
Yeah.
personally affect her.
Yeah.
I think it was more Hank was able to disassociate from this victim / criminal. His focus was on saving Kim.
Yeah. I can see
And I
that.
think that's where the coldest kind of came in, because it doesn't seem like he had compassion for the victim.
Yeah.
But it's because he was focused on, okay,
I just
my
wish they'd
officer clearly
shown-
needs this.
Yeah, I just wish they'd shown a little more, because I mean, Hank is usually, I mean, he can be cold, but typically women and children and people that are clearly a victim, he usually has a whole lot of compassion
Yeah.
for them. And so it felt strange for me.
Yep. And I think it's because his headspace was just about focusing on Kim.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And it's because Kim is doing the work in therapy that she's actually able to see the root of this, though.
Yes. Give it up for Kim's therapist. Like the way she was just handling all of that. And I just love to see Kim diving into everything. Therapist wanting Adam to come when she said, if you ask your partner to join us, and she's like, acting like she didn't think he would. I'm thinking, Kim, do you realize he would do anything for you? Like he's gonna do this without a doubt and have. And I mean, it's not like Adam's one of those macho men that's like, I can't talk about my feelings. That's not who he is. So like, he's gonna be willing to do this, like no problem at all. And I think, we saw that. Like I said, throughout the whole episode, just the way he supports her, the way he was there for her, for everything. And so she finally, got the nerve to ask him, like, because he mentioned, I loved how he was like, hey, I've still got a day off. Michaela's at the sleepover. And of course, I'm like, well, Michaela's at a sleepover. You have the house to yourself? Okay. I was getting excited, right? And the Kim's like, we should go to therapy. And I mean, Adam makes his little joke, which I thought was cute. He's like, is that a restaurant? Like, what is this? But then, of course, she was so scared to ask him that she immediately starts backtracking. Like, oh, I don't think anything will come of this. Like, it's not a big deal. And he was just like, no, like, we'll go. Like, it's not a problem. Like, just like we thought he would. He went. My favorite part, I think, of the therapy session was when he mentions that, like, hey, there have been times when I've wanted more, when I felt more. And the look on Kim's face, it was this realization, because I think we've all kind of that's the one thing we've given Kim a hard time about, like, why are you doing this to him? Like, clearly. And it was like in that moment, she was like, she didn't realize that she had given off that vibe that she didn't want more. And I think in that moment, I started thinking her brokenness and her trauma, it started long before this Roy thing. And maybe we didn't realize that. We should have, as much as this woman has been through in the 10 years the show has been on. I mean, if you look back to, she was shot, which is right when they first said they loved each other, like when she was in the hospital that time. And then go forward, not only her being shot, then there was that time that Roman almost died, and she had to, like, when they were in that like warehouse with those guys, those gang members or whatever, like that was very traumatic. She had a miscarriage because of being on the job. Like, there's so many things that probably the brokenness and the being scared, as she said, where she couldn't admit her whole feelings, just started so long ago and just kept getting piled on and piled on and piled on.
And it's not like this is a job you can easily detach from or take a break from.
Exactly.
It just keeps coming.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's clear that, like, and I'm glad that she told him, because the sadness on his face when she kind of clammed up and was like, couldn't finish what she wanted to say at therapy. And you can tell when he gets home, he comes in, he opens that beer and is just drinking it right away. He's not willing to push her, but he's clearly upset that they're not getting anywhere, that they were almost there and she retreated again.
Well, I do want to say one thing about that, though, because what she said in therapy, because she trailed off.
Yeah.
She said, it was never that I didn't feel as much. I've always felt a lot for you.
I know.
And the look on Adam's face when she said that was like, what?
He didn't
have?
It's just been this whole miscommunication. Like, I think she always knew he felt that way for her, but she did not realize that the vibe that she was giving back to him.
Yeah.
Which I think was also a healing point for us as an audience members, because that's been a lot of our issue with Kim. That why are you treating him like this? Why do you not give him what he deserves and like what he's giving to you? She thought she just was too broken to like actually admit it.
And what she said was she was too scared and too numb. So I think the reason why they allowed this to happen in this episode is because numb was her therapy before. I mean, when you numb out, it's when you're filling yourself with all these other things so you don't think about what the problem is. And that was her self-medication. That was her self-therapy, was I'm going to stay numb. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be numb. So I'm going to detach and I don't have to be in this pain. But now that she's getting therapy and she can recognize that it's not just about doing the work, it's that you have to change how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
And Adam, at that point, when she said that, he looked at her for a long moment and he was about to walk away and let her just be because he still didn't want to push her.
Yeah.
And that's a good man.
He's the best man. I mean, I love it. Not the best man. Obviously, my husband's the best man. Okay, we'll just clear that up. Not that he listens to the show, so he won't hear me say that. But
Okay, I just would like to point out to everyone who's listening or watching this right now, have you noticed the change in Jeanette's actions and her facial features and her body movements
So
in the
excited.
last 3 seconds of this?
I've been waiting. You all should have seen me when I watched this live. Okay, my whole family was in bed. I was watching it in my room, so I'm sitting on my bed, and every time I was leaning back watching it. Every time they would get in a scene together, I'd sit up real close to the TV. Like, is this it? Is this it? I mean, I had to like contain my excitement because I would have like probably screamed and yelled if my family wasn't all asleep. And I was like, it's a maintain. Okay. But no, when she grabbed, like, okay. So I know Maureen doesn't want to talk about this. And you probably didn't even notice this.
You didn't know so clearly. I'm just enjoying you reacting to it.
Like, everything about this scene was perfect. Like, I remember last week on the podcast, I said I didn't want them to like have sex. I didn't want that. I wasn't ready for that unless they did it perfectly. And I think they did it perfectly. It wasn't just like one of their times when they randomly hook up just for the sake of hooking up. This was a breakthrough for Kim as herself and for them as a couple. There were so many parallels, and I don't know if we're not so many, but I mean, I loved that. And I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but you didn't, because you didn't watch the scene. Okay, so she grabs him, they kiss, and then he like picks her up, like, and carries her like one arm, because the other arm's like making sure he doesn't knock stuff over. Of course, they did knock.
They were not successful.
I know, that poor lamp. Oh well. But like, if you think back, the very first time they hooked up, when he showed up at her door and he said, "I like you," like, you know, when he comes in at her apartment, he lifts her up, one arm carries her to the bedroom again. It was exactly the same way. And I don't think I've seen anybody else on these shows. Like, it had to be on purpose, I think. I don't know why. I mean, it just seemed like it was a parallel back to like the first time we saw them together. But I mean, everything aside, I mean, it was the perfect amount of spice for me. Like, just enough, you know, for network TV, not too much. But Kim looked so happy. Like just as like this one, I don't know. I mean, I felt like she has looked so sad for years now, almost always. And it was like this relief. I mean, just, she was truly happy in that moment. And not just, you know, I mean, I think it was the connection, the physical connection. And because there's a difference between hooking up and having intimacy in your relationships. And they haven't had intimacy because she has been so hardwired to shut it down. Not on her part anyways. I feel like for him, it's probably been intimacy. Yes, absolutely. But if you're not receiving that, then you're not receiving it. It doesn't matter how much the other person is giving of themselves. You're not going to receive it if you don't want to. And she hasn't. And I think that this was the reason it was so perfect, is because it was her decision. She chose, and it was because she had realized that he has never altered his feelings. He has never lessened his feelings. He has never backed down from his feelings. He's been constant and consistent. And that is something that Kim has craved ever since these traumas happened on the force. She's needed that consistency. And she finally realized in confessing her numbness and to have him look at her. And I think the reason they had him pause when she said that, he walked very, very close to her. And he just stared at her for a couple seconds. I think the reason they did that was because it was showing her, I'm still here. I'm not, that doesn't throw me off. That doesn't make me want to leave. I'm here for you. And I want you to be released from this. I could cry. And that's why she decided in that moment to put her hand on him and stop him from going. And Adam obviously knew what that meant. Of course. Clearly, because he did like stop after she put the hand. He stopped and looked for a second, like, she kissed him. I think I'm saying, like, it was like he wasn't going to do it. He was letting her take charge of the whole thing until she kissed him, and he was cool with taking charge of whatever. But like he wanted to make sure that, like, what are you wanting to do right now? And the only thing that I hope is that I hope this is it. And I'm not saying I need them to get married next episode or anything like that. I'm just saying continue work and be together. No steps backwards. That they are together. Everyone knows they're together. We move forward. I mean, like, I think, like, I want Mac to have her family completely. I want to see everybody. I mean, I just want them to be a couple. I eventually want to see them get married and, maybe they
Mhm.
have a baby or something, like, whatever. But like, I'm not asking for that right away, but I don't want to see, there is no reason for there to be any more hiccups in their
Setbacks.
relationship.
Yeah.
There should be no more. They've had plenty and we're done.
And I think there was an article I read where he was talking and he even said, I think there's enough other
Yeah.
things that you can just leave them alone. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Patty
I
who
sent
said
that.
that.
I want to read that actually, because I sent that to our group chat.
Did you? Oh, because I also found the article and I took a screenshot of where he said it.
Oh yeah, I took a screenshot too. Okay, let's see. Let's just get to what he said. He said, you'll have very solid answers to where they stand with each other in the next episode. He tells us, hinting at episode 18's You Only Die Twice. He continued, if Instagram comments are any indication, which obviously he's read all of our stuff here, most of the fans are like, just leave them alone. Yes. So I think we've got enough opportunities for drama on our show that maybe you'll actually be able to see two people that are just kind of happy together. We've definitely both told, so they've told the writers, and we can tell them anything we want, but it doesn't mean they're going to listen. If they break us up again, like, please, let's not try this again. But yeah, I think they're in a good place. So him and Marina both are like, okay, and the thing is, Marina hyped it up so much on her Instagram. I do think we're in a good place, because otherwise I don't think she would have done that to all of us fans for it to be something, and then it goes right back to being trouble. I think
And
they're fed up with it too. They want to be together,
Yeah.
because this is what they deserve. So
the other thing too is that I don't think the writers would have made the mistake of having her do all the work in therapy to get all this stuff recovered, to keep them so separate from any other relationship, but continue to draw them together, unless this was their end goal.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be, I don't want to say
the only
easy,
thing
because nothing in the Chicago universe is easy, but I think that from here on out, we're going to see them, because they still have a lot of work to do. Kim still has a lot of things she needs to get rid of, and Adam probably should continue going to those therapy sessions with her. And I think that we're going to see them continue to do that and do the work and get closer, because it's not just the physicality that needs intimacy. It's them as a couple, it's them as people. They need to be intimate with each other and be leaning on each other in real, tangible ways.
Yeah, I completely agree. The only thing that has me a little stressed is, like, next week's episode, we're back to him being undercover. I don't really like him undercover. Like, can we put Torres back undercover? Someone else? I mean, not that I just, but like Adam, like, we're in a good place. So like, I need everything to be okay. And he's in a dangerous undercover situation. Like, this scares me, and I don't like it.
And the line that it said on there is Ruzek's cover is his cover blown. Like, come on. We just finally got, the fandom finally got what they waited 9 years for. And now you're going to put us in this position Kim has made so many good strides.
Yeah.
And you're going to put her in this position to be all sorts of freaked out all over again because
Like,
she finally just let him in. And now we get a threat from Sam. Is that her name? The lady's name, Sam? We get a threat from her. We get a threat from from her white supremacist father of saying, your time is coming. And then Adam saying, I'm all alone here. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm going. I'm in the dark. And like, why?
I mean, like, she's had enough trauma. Can you imagine?
No.
I don't know. I don't like it.
It's going to be, I certainly hope it's not like his overdose all over again.
That was stressful.
Yes.
Like, I didn't like that at all. And I knew he was fine, but I didn't care. This I don't know, because I don't know anything. Like, we're live now. So,
and her white supremacist father has gotten an awful lot of target practice. And what Adam was saying, I'm in the dark here. I don't know where I am. He's in a car by himself in the middle of nowhere in the dark. Did they just park him there for target practice?
I know. I don't like it.
And I think Kim is going to be even more intense now about protecting him when he's on the job. So that she's going to be a part of this somehow.
I just envision her being as stressed as he was when she had been kidnapped. Like that.
Yes.
And I don't want that for her. Like, she's suffered enough. Like,
I just heard Adam's voice again when you said that. When he's screaming at them in the room. What is the line he says?
He says,
I thought you were going to come up with it right off the top of the
no,
head.
because I have to make sure it's exactly right. Because they say something about, like, we can't change the rules just because it's Kim. And he's like, what does he say exactly? Something we absolutely can because it's Kim. And he's like,
just that
It's
Like
that the way he does that, because I mean, he like gets so like, and Kim, the way he says Kim. I want to go watch that episode again, even though it's so stressful. I don't know.
And maybe we'll see Kim react the same way. And we've
And I
seen her
kind of-
freak out before, but
I would like, I mean, but see, she's not the freak out type. I mean, because she did a little bit during the overdose episode. You could tell she was really stressed. But she's
that
not
one
the
and when
type-
Michaela was taken. Those are the
Yeah.
only 2 times that she's ever, and she didn't even freak out
She
necessarily.
didn't, because
She
Adam
got angry.
freaked out during the Michaela thing more than Kim did. She just doesn't. That's not who she is. That's not how she
Mhm.
responds to her stressful situations. But I don't know. I'm going to watch this one live too, I think, because I'll be too stressed to wait.
She just doesn't need any added stressors, and neither does Adam. Not when things are right.
Maybe
But
this will be over this week, and then that's it. They can just be good. Like we can just pass those.
And maybe this would be the added push to really give up all of themselves in their therapy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because they were clearly holding back. They were a little nervous at therapy. So maybe this is what's needed.
Yeah.
So a lot of things with our favorite characters coming up in PD and in Fire too. We got good news next week on Fire. We've got scary news coming up in PD, and we've got your normal med stuff next week.
6 or 7 patients, right?
Hopefully with fewer cases and with more focus on relational aspects of the show. So check out our One Chicago group. It's One Chicago Family Fan Club on Facebook. Come in there, check it out. We have a 36-hour spoiler ban every Wednesday into Thursday? Or is it Wednesday into Friday?
It's Wednesday into stuff can be posted Friday morning.
Friday morning. So, but you can post on our spoiler thread. If you get real excited about what happened to the Ruzek and you need to talk about it, or Will Halstead.
I did.
Yes. Or anybody. Oh my gosh, you did? I didn't even go check that out.
I think I wrote finally. I'm just so excited.
Oh, I didn't even think to check that. So check that out. You can comment on our spoiler thread. If you just cannot contain yourself, go ahead and hit us up there. And you can have any conversation you want there. We're trying to include some discussion posts. Did we have one this week you wanted to bring up? Did you put a discussion in Chicago this week or no?
There was a few. I mean, I think most of, like, one of them was, of course, about Berzek, and everyone is in agreement that it's about time. There was, we of course discussed Will and Grace, and no one likes that except for Amanda. But no, actually, I mean, like everybody, as far as Berzek goes, I mean, I think everybody is right there. Like even one person, Jennifer Riley, who's been a longtime member in lots of our groups. She had said, I love this. I hope this means that they are together, a happy couple, and they get married, and Adam adopts Michaela, and she starts calling him dad. They all deserve some happiness in their lives. Yes, to every single piece of that. Yes, yes, yes. But yeah, even in Katie Sisko, she's one of our big members, agreed that it really bothers her that Michaela doesn't call him dad. It bothers me too, because I think it's time that
Patty doesn't think it's time.
I know, but I normally wouldn't say this, but Patty's wrong, and it is time. Okay. Cynthia Herring said, I actually cheered out loud for this. Kim is my favorite, and I love her with Adam. Same. Like I had to do not wake up your family. So excited. Yeah, everybody's like beyond. That's the thing. I think that is like this is like the one thing that One Chicago fans agree on.
Yeah.
That Berzek are perfect for each other. So there's no reason to mess this up. We all agree on. There's very few things that we all agree on, and this is one of them.
It's Berzek. It's the Hermans.
Yeah.
And
I think Stella Ride.
I think it's more. I think that's part of that's divided. But I think we are all 100% of us in the fandom are behind the Hermans. 100% of us are behind Berzek. Well, 75% of us are behind Stella Ride. Med, I don't think we really have that. I don't think we have one thing that we all agree on. Med.
Yeah.
But those are the two big ones that we're like, yes. So go into our groups. One Chicago's not the only group that we have. We have several. Go check. If you just look up Family Fan Club and Facebook, you'll find them. But what we've started to do is Jeanette has started to post discussion questions in our group. So we'll talk about them on the podcast when we talk about the shows. Yeah. And we'll give you some shout outs there. If you want to interact with us that way, we'd love to hear you. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and on our podcast platforms like iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you listen to it. Subscribe to it where you can and rate our podcast. The more we get interaction like that from you, our listeners, the more we can get you things like cast and crew interviews, which we would really like to give you more of. But that's one thing that they look up before they agree to do an interview is what our listener base is. So make sure to subscribe and rate us where you can. And we will see you on Wednesday night, which will be tomorrow, for Grey's Anatomy, Station 19. That's our ABC night. Sunday brings you another Fox night where we're talking OG 911 and 911 Lone Star. And of course, every Tuesday night, we're coming at you with our One Chicago stuff. So stay tuned and we'll see you real soon. Bye, guys.
Bye. Loving our content? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to share our podcast with your family and friends. We want to continue the conversation with you. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok under Fandom Family Chats, or one of our ever-growing Facebook groups by searching Family Fan Club. We've also launched a website, Family Fan Club 2021 at wixsite.com. You can email us there and keep checking it for announcements and merch coming soon. And of course, be sure to tune in every week for new episodes discussing all your favorite shows.